Hi, Kat.
Hi, Steph.
How
Good
are
to see you.
you?
Good. Enjoying the spring.
Yeah, it's lovely outside. Well, thanks for taking time out of your day to come sit with us and chat.
Yeah.
Started off, can you just tell us a little bit about where you work?
Yeah. So I'm a professor at Towson University, and I'm an assistant professor. This is my third year there. And I teach classes on introduction to anthropology and archaeology, and then some upper level classes on things like GIS, collections management, um, methods, field methods. And I also run the Baltimore Community Archaeology Lab out of Towson, which trains students in how to do compliance archaeology and takes care of all the archaeology on campus.
Wow, that sounds busy.
I'm busy. Yeah, I like to keep busy.
That's great, though. Like, what's your favorite thing about your job?
Definitely the students. I have a really great group of students. I actually just got off of a call with a former student who graduated last spring, and we're working to build a master's program for her out of the professional studies degree at Towson. So she can, even though we don't currently offer a master's of anthropology or archaeology, she's going to continue on at Towson. So it's really great to work with such an enthusiastic group, and a group that's really enthusiastic about bringing more archaeology to the Baltimore area and making it accessible to the folks of the area. I really like how they're just as passionate about that as I am.
Yeah, that's really a great trend that we see across Maryland too, but that's great that your students are actively involved and really want to stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of speaking of that, how did you get into archaeology and what keeps you here?
Well, so I was a Navy brat. We grew up all over the place. And, but when my parents retired from the Navy, I was in fifth grade and they took civilian jobs and moved to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So a lot of history. My dad was a big history buff. And I started out as a history major at Penn State. And a lot of people asked me, what are you going to do? Teach high school history? And I was like, no. And I took an introduction to anthropology class my first semester in college, and really enjoyed just all of the diversity of experience that goes into being in archaeology. You're not always doing the same thing every day. You're in the field, you're in the lab, you're writing reports, you're visiting sites, you're teaching. It was enough variety to really keep me interested in the job. And then the archaeology itself, I think I'm a huge proponent of archaeology as anthropology, because I'm really interested in people and what makes people tick and how they interact with one another. And I've always really liked rocks, so I'm a stone tool person. So a great combo way to bring those things together of how do people communicate and interact with one another and with the materials that make up our lives, our daily lives. So I think those questions continue to really keep me interested. And being a professor, I think every semester that I teach introduction to paleoanthropology and archaeology every semester, and it brings up new questions for me every semester. So I think when I first started teaching that class at Towson, I was kind of meh about it. But every semester since, I've actually liked it more and more, because I learned something new. So I think that's what really keeps me involved, is there's always something new to learn.
Yeah, that's perfectly explained because archaeology is not just one thing, it is so many things.
Yeah, it's the quintessential interdisciplinary thing, right? We're not really 100% experts in any one science. We're a little bit of every different pocket of things, which I really enjoy. It's my multitasking nature.
Right, exactly. So tell us a little bit about your Maryland Archaeology Month topic.
Yeah, so talk about multitasking. When I first moved to the Baltimore area, I did my PhD and some subsequent CRM work in Wisconsin, and then I moved to the Baltimore area in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, and was really looking for a way to get my students practical experience with archaeological collections, which Towson is not a repository. We don't have a lot of collections there. So I reached out to some of the local historical societies, and especially the Natural History Society of Maryland. And they were very excited to have a pre-contact archaeologist, someone who works with Native American artifacts, come on board, because that's pretty much their entire set of collections. So my students and I quickly got involved in cataloging all of the archaeology collections and getting them into a digital database. We've actually put out one publication in North American Archaeologist, a student and I, about some of the Natural History Society collections. But my topic was focusing on the work that Richard Stearns, who collected most of the artifacts for the Natural History Society of Maryland, the work that he did. And I've always been really interested in how early archaeologists in different parts of the country did their work. And Richard Stearns is just a standout character from the 1930s and 40s, who was really documenting things way better than a lot of his contemporaries, and really seemed to have a passion for the documentation part of things, more so than the actual materials themselves, which he often didn't collect and bring back, but just documented their locations. So I really wanted to emphasize that there were people who were doing this early on that weren't necessarily trained to do it that way. Stearns was not a professional archaeologist in any sense of the term, but we're really able to benefit from the type of information that he collected. And now, in an age where archaeology is really trying to step back from the let's excavate more and more and more, because of the finite nature of that and the nature of spaces to store all that stuff, it seemed really appropriate to focus on what can we do with the stuff that we already have that nobody's really looking at. And so I really wanted to highlight that resource.
Yeah, and then what makes it so interesting is usually you see it the other way around, where people are collecting, but not getting their location and their data. And he did the opposite, which turns out to be beneficial.
Yeah, it's really incredible. We've been able to link. So, I mean, we have site locations for his sites, right? As opposed to not knowing where any of his stuff came from, which makes a huge difference when you're trying to determine things like, is this raw material local or not local? Or, are these materials from the same site or a different site? How far away are they from one another? Is there a connection between them, right? Those are the types of questions that archaeologists want to answer, but can't really answer if we don't know where things are from.
Right. So why do you think this is an important topic to talk about now?
I think it's always an important topic to talk about, understanding where things came from. It's been particularly relevant for me on Towson's campus, because we have a lot of development and building going on right now. And there isn't a lot of focus on what was there or understanding of what was there before. And really, when one building comes down and another one goes up, it just kind of fades from the collective memory, and there's no attempt to preserve that information in the the collective memory of the community of students who regularly rotate through the area. So it's already a pretty transient group of people. So I think it's important for us to, as part of our identity, we relate to a place, right? The first thing I told you about my history is that I grew up in Gettysburg, right? So something connects us to a place, and I'm at the Baltimore Community Archaeology Lab, right? So we have these connections to place, and if we don't understand the history of that place, then I think it lessens our connection, and it lessens our ability to really form a community of people that are in that place or from that place, right? So as much as we can preserve information about where things came from, where people came from, place is important. And without, I think, those roots in one area or another, speaking as a very rootless person who grew up all over the place, we still feel the need to say I was born here and I grew up here and I went to school here. Those are serious parts of our identity. And I think they would have been I know they would have been for people in the past too. So I think it's really important as we try, to get a sense of who we are as a people, to really keep track of that.
That's awesome. Well said. That's great. Well, thank you for taking up so much of your time today to chat with us, and thank you for what you're doing for Maryland and for Baltimore. The community, like you said, it's such a pivotal place. So I hope that you get a lot of public interest in what you're doing.
So far, so good. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to doing more. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.